So we're about to get into the heavy stuff. Yeah, take a sip.
Oh dear.
Um, because now I want to actually really break down um Christianity with you, and I really want to
Okay.
talk about what is authentic Christianity. And I saw a quote actually earlier today, funny enough,
Hmm.
that said popular Christianity is unbiblical, while biblical Christianity is unpopular.
Wow.
And going to your book here again, talking about bearing the marks of authentic faith. I actually, as I said, I've underlined stuff in the book
Oh,
because
nice.
I'm just fascinated by all the stuff that you're talking about, especially humility and in the first chapter, especially talking about the Holy Spirit not just being a visitor, but actually being like a
Yeah.
roommate really with you.
Right. Right.
All of that where you said here, bear the marks of authentic faith. And that's obviously also the subtitle of the book as well. That just made me, and I even made a note of Galatians 6:17,
Yeah.
um, which says, let me no longer be troubled, for I bear in my body the marks of Jesus. I actually have that tattooed right here.
Wow.
So I took that one literally almost.
Wow. 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 I love that, Casey. That's phenomenal.
So
That's what I did my PhD dissertation on actually was
really,
Galatians chapters 5 and 6. Oh yeah. 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 Yeah.
wow. Well, wow, look at us here then. Look at
We
us.
could geek out on that for a long time.
Um, so changing people's perceptions. I want to start here before we get into the heavy hit questions that are
Yeah.
popularly asked by atheists, that hopefully I can get your input on. So
Sure.
the first thing, sticking with the mojo of the show, changing people's perceptions. What is, in your opinion, the biggest misconception of modern Christianity, um, and real Christian, or versus, I guess I should say, versus real Christianity, and how would you um, say it also has an effect on our current society as well?
Wow. Wow.
So that is a bit of a loaded question. So if you want to take
Yeah.
another
That's
sip, yeah,
no, for real. For real. The biggest misperceptions of modern Christianity, or like Christianity in the modern world. And do you mean
yeah,
by modern world like recent, like last 20, 30 years, or do you mean like last 300 years?
I would say since I guess modern being, I guess say since like the 70s, 80s, 90s, that
Yes, yes,
whole
okay, kind of
movement with it.
contemporary last, yeah, for sure,
Yeah,
50 years, modern America. Yeah, no, that's great. Biggest misperceptions. Gosh, I mean, a huge misconception would be that, this is I'm hesitant to say this because it sounds cliche, Casey, but it's so actually so powerfully true.
sure.
Maybe the biggest misconception is that Christianity is a religion when Christianity is a relationship with a living person.
Mm,
Uh, Again, we talk about Christianity is not a religion; it's a relationship. Like that's thrown around a lot by Christians, but it is spectacularly true.
yeah,
And for the average person outside of Christianity, what they encounter tends to be the moral rules or the theological dogmas of Christianity or convictions of Christianity that tend to be distinguishing Christians from non-Christians and
sure.
therefore is kind of offensive or can grate on them. Well, you believe this about abortion, you believe this about homosexuality, you think this about people who've never heard of Jesus are going to go to hell, you believe in hell, so there's that. And that then I think in people's minds can be like, that's what Christianity is about. Christianity is about, you know, homosexuality and abortion and voting Republican and going to hell. Right? And that's not exactly what
I mean, if
Christianity
you
is
really did
about.
have to chalk it up, yeah, yeah,
You know
that
what I'm
was pretty
saying?
chalk.
Like, so Christianity is about walking with, learning from, and living in communion with the person of Jesus Christ, who is God incarnate,
Mm,
who lived and died and was raised again for our sins and for our salvation. And
Yeah.
we can commune with him. And that's what Christianity is about. It's not about following rules and about having the right things in your head. It's
Hmm.
about communing with God. That's what it's about through his son, Jesus Christ. So that's
Yeah.
a huge misperception, I think, is Christianity's like every other religion. It's a kind of religion. It's a kind of system. It's kind of a club you become part of. And that's not what
Yeah.
Christianity is ultimately about at its core. I would say another
Yeah.
misperception about Christianity in the modern world, the contemporary world, is it's a kind of white European thing, right?
Yeah. The first church I think was in Ethiopia, and the second was India.
Yeah, 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 for sure, right? I mean, at the end of the day, Christianity is a movement that emerged out of Judaism, the
Yeah.
in the ancient Near Eastern world.
Yeah.
And so, and in early centuries of Christianity, Christianity had a very strong, powerful presence in North Africa.
Mm.
One of the most influential, if not the most influential, theologian in the Western Church in the last 2,000 years, Augustine of Hippo, um, was positioned as a bishop in North Africa. Right, so there's always been a strong. So all that's to say, Christianity is not a white male European thing, right?
Mm.
That's a complete misperception of Christianity. Christianity began as and has always been a global, transnational, multi-ethnic movement of followers of Jesus.
Yeah.
That's what Christianity is about. It is not like British, like we got this from the British, something like
Just
that.
another thing we stole. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly, exactly. You know what I'm saying? So that's a huge misperception. I think particularly now, as people have become more multicultural and more sensitive to cultural differences and colonialism and all this kind of stuff.
Sure.
Um, I think the temptations to pigeonhole Christianity that way, and that's not the story at all. Maybe I could have mentioned another misperception of Christianity is that it's antagonistic to science.
Mm.
That's a widespread
Mm.
misconception
Now,
or
yeah. Now,
misperception,
now you got me sitting forward a little bit because
right? I mean,
I
the
love not necessarily debunking science with Christianity, but actually showing how sometimes science is in tandem
yeah,
with Christianity.
yeah, yeah, and I might even put Casey. Um, Christianity needs to be always integrating the
Mm.
best findings of science into the Christian worldview. God has two books. This is the way theologians have talked about it. He has two books he's written. One is the book
Mm.
of the Bible, and the other is the book of nature, the
Ooh.
natural world.
Okay.
So when God
Yeah.
created, he created the natural world, and then through history, he revealed himself in a book we call the Bible. Now, these two books have the same author. They're not going to disagree.
Yeah.
Many times throughout the history of the Bible, last 2,000 years or more, we human beings have felt like there have been tensions between the book of nature and the book of God, the Bible.
Uh-huh.
And they've been in a dynamic dialogue, if you will, as we're trying to figure out, wait a minute, it says this in the Bible, but this is what the natural world seems to be like. But that doesn't seem to
Yeah.
be what the Bible's saying. Wait, no, maybe we need to think about how we read the Bible differently. Let's do that. Okay. Wow. Maybe the Bible doesn't insist that this earth is at the center of the solar system and the sun is revolving around it. Maybe from what we're learning from the scientific world, maybe we can
Mhm.
integrate that with our understanding of the Bible by thinking about the Bible a little differently and what it says when it says Joshua prayed and the sun stood still, right? So this is the
Yeah.
Copernican revolution from 500 years ago, where of course many Christians in the Catholic Church preeminently was like slamming the brakes on Copernicus and Galileo and denouncing them as heretics because the Bible seemed to clearly teach that the Earth is at the center of the solar system, of the universe, and the sun and everything else is revolving around it. And this is what
Yeah.
most ancient thinkers thought as well, Aristotle and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
So all that's to say, Casey, these two books have always been in a kind of Like a good marriage, they've always been in a dynamic dialogue where they sometimes get some tension and some disagreement, but they need to stay patient with each other to try to
Yeah.
integrate into one single coherent marriage. So, this, in
Gotcha.
my view, is the way Christians ought to think about science. The best science, that is to say, that which is giving us the most accurate understanding of the natural world, should
Mhm.
not be scary to Christians. We might not fully understand how that connects with what we seem to think the Bible's teaching. But
Mhm.
what we should insist on is that the best of science will confirm and corroborate with and connect to the Bible, because these are both written by the same author. So we
Right,
should
and
seek integration between the two.
yeah, and I mean any archaeological discovery that I think they've ever used Old Testament and New Testament context, the Old Testament would say it's here, and then they went and dug it up, and then boom, it was there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, there are
I
all
mean,
sorts.
archaeology is not science per se, but I mean,
Yeah,
to my point, yeah.
yeah, no, no, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And there's been all sorts of. I mean, but it's. I would just want to emphasize it's a kind of a two-way street, if you will, Casey. Not only
Hmm.
has it been the book of God, the Bible has said, hey, go look for these things in history, and then people go and look, and they're like, whoa, lo and behold, that's amazing, right? As you
Hmm.
described. But also, scientists over here studying the book of nature have said, I know that we've thought the world was this way, but like we now have compelling, almost irrefutable evidence that the world, the natural world, is this way, not that way.
Hmm.
And so let's go now and think, are we really understanding the Bible rightly? Have we really read these passages rightly? Or can we think about these passages differently in a way that doesn't put conflict with the natural world, but
Hmm.
coherence with the natural world? I think that's the right
Yeah,
disposition for Christians to have, personally.
gotcha.
It
Yeah.
doesn't solve all the problems, but it's the right attitude for Christians to have, I think.